Hello, my name is Michael Boone, and this is my pitch for Adaption War. To start, let me ask you, what if there was a grid strategy game with no initial setup capabilities? Because that is what Adaption War is about. Adaption War is a 2D top-down grid strategy game. The player's decisions are listed as followed. The player has the ability to move the units under their control. The player simply has to select the unit and move however many spaces that unit is allowed to move, depending on their class, as well as the terrain around the unit itself. Depending on the selected unit, the player may have the option to attack. If they're close enough in range to their attack for that unit, they're able to attack them, although the enemy does have the opportunity to perform a counterattack after being attacked themselves. You simply have to attack the enemy until they run out of hit points. There will be bases throughout the map that allow the enemy or player to train new units for use in battle. Capturing bases are simply if the base itself is currently unoccupied, they have the ability to capture it. Training them is the same, only it's empty and it is in your control after you select what unit you want to be trained there. The main goal of this game is to defeat all the enemy units. Some levels may have you capture the enemy's main base, or take down their main boss. You may have to capture all lesser bases to prevent units from being trained as well, to help you defeat the main boss, or defeat all other enemy units. The main rules of the game is that various points on the grid maps will have both detrimental and beneficial effects to both player and opponent units, such as the terrain. As an example would be if you're in a forest, it would decrease your movement but increase your defense. There's also going to be a weapon triangle system that will make certain weapons strong against some but weak against others, such as a rock, paper, scissors effect. Another important rule in this game is that when you initially start each level, the units that you're allowed to use are actually randomly generated. It allows the player to have to try to adapt to what they're actually given at the beginning of the level. In case they're either at a disadvantage or an advantage over the enemy, you may be able to either quickly go through the level or take longer to do it, as you'll have to capture bases to give yourself an advantage. The main theme of this game is a non-fantasy medieval world. Bases themselves will generally be villages, forts, and castles, where each tier of that will be harder to take down, but faster to train units. Units themselves will mainly be sword wielders or axe wielders, or use archery or crossbow. Because of the weapon triangle and the grid map topographical effect point systems, the player will have to decide carefully who and what they attack and where, because they may be at a disadvantage when they're fighting somebody. It also helps that with the novelty of the game, of the units being randomly generated, they may start at an initial disadvantage, so they have to try to quickly get bases so they can adjust their tactics appropriately. It really allows the player to adapt to what's going on around them. This game's combat system is similar to that of Advance Wars, but with units similar to that of the Fire Emblem series. The main risk in development for this game would be the level's quality and balance is very important. There would need to be good balance between the size of the map as well as the terrain and how it's affecting the units, as well as the balance between the units themselves on the weapon triangle system, as well as possible bosses being implemented and how strong they actually are. There also may be some bugs with the random unit generator, and it may need to be balanced on how random it actually is. Again, this is Michael Boone, and this has been my pitch for Adaption War.